On New Year's Eve, my daughter-in-law handed me a name badge. It read Observer. Her parents laughed out loud. My son smirked and said, "Food is for family." There was no chair for me, as if I were the help. That was the moment I decided not one more second. Real quick comment below and let me know where you're watching from. I need to know this story is reaching people who understand what it's like to be invisible in your own life. The security guard at the front desk didn't recognize me. I stood there in the lobby of my son's company, the company I'd funded with every dollar I had, while a kid young enough to be my grandson scrolled through his tablet, frowning at the guest list. The glass walls around us reflected the party already in full swing on the third floor. Champagne, laughter, the hum of success I'd paid for. "Name again, sir." "Thomas Mitchell." I kept my voice level, patient, the way you do when you've spent 40 years as an engineer solving problems that required precision, not emotion. He scrolled, frowned deeper. "I'm showing you on the list, but let me call upstairs." I waited. Through the glass elevator shaft, I could see people moving on the third floor. Suits and cocktail dresses. A banner that read, "Tech Fund Solutions, celebrating 5 years of innovation." 5 years. That's how long it had been since I'd written the check that made all of this possible. The guard hung up his phone. "Someone's coming down with your credentials, Mr. Mitchell." Not my son. That would have been too much to ask on New Year's Eve. A young woman emerged from the elevator, early 20s, probably an intern wearing a lanyard that said event staff. She walked toward me with the kind of apologetic smile people use when they're delivering bad news on someone else's behalf. "Mr. Mitchell. Hi, I'm Kayla. Brian asked me to bring this down." She held out a plastic badge on a cheap lanyard, not the elegant ones I'd seen on the VCs in the photographs Brian posted. Just a plain white rectangle with black text. Observer. I stared at it. The word sat there clinical and cold. Observer. Not founder, not investor, not even guest of honor. "Brian apologizes he couldn't come down himself," Kayla continued. "Jessica wanted me to make sure you got checked in. The party's already started upstairs." Jessica, my daughter-in-law, the woman who'd been reshaping my son's life and mine for the past 5 years. I took the badge, clipped it to my jacket. "Thank you, Kayla." The third floor opened into an open-concept office transformed for the evening. String lights, ice sculptures, waiters in bow ties carrying trays of hors d'oeuvres that probably cost more per bite than the lunches I used to pack. 150 people celebrating. I found the seating chart on an easel near the entrance. Elegant calligraphy on cream cardstock. Founding team table. Brian Mitchell, Jessica Brown, Mitchell, Marcus Smith, Sarah Jenkins, David Reed, Amanda Foster. My eyes scanned down past the board members, past the senior staff, all the way to the bottom. General guests, standing reception area. Thomas Mitchell. I pulled out my phone and took a picture. Evidence. The engineer in me still kept records. Across the room, a stage had been set up near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the San Francisco skyline. My son stood there in a tailored suit, microphone in hand. Jessica beside him, radiant in a dress that probably cost what I used to make in a month. "Thank you all for being here tonight." Brian's voice boomed through the speakers. 5 years ago, Tech Fund Solutions was just an idea, a dream that most people said would never work. We built this company from nothing. With my wife's vision, our incredible team, and the trust of investors who believed in us when no one else would. From nothing. I looked down at the plastic champagne cup a waiter had handed me. At the founding team table 15 feet away, crystal flutes caught the light. To 5 years of growth, Brian continued raising his glass, and to the Series A funding that's going to take us to the next level. Happy New Year, everyone. The room erupted in applause. Crystal glasses clinked. I set my plastic cup down, pulled out my phone, 5 years of messages with Brian. I scrolled backward through the gradual cooling of his words, through the increasing spaces between responses, all the way back to the very first message. The message that started everything. 5 years ago, my son called me at 2 a.m. He was crying. I'd been awake already. Sleep hadn't come easy since Susan died 6 months earlier. The house in Portland felt too big, with just me in it, 40 years of marriage, echoing in empty rooms, her reading glasses still on the nightstand. When my phone lit up with Brian's name, my first thought was accident. A hospital. The kind of call every parent dreads. Dad, his voice cracked. I don't know what to do. What happened? Are you hurt? Everything's falling apart. Jessica's pregnant. We got an eviction notice. I pitched the startup to 12 investors, and they all said no. I've got nothing. No job, no prospects, no way to take care of my family. I walked to the window. Portland at 2 in the morning, quiet streets, rain on glass. You're not a failure, Brian. I've got a plan, Dad. A real one. The technology works. I just need capital to prove it. But no one will take a chance on me? I pressed my hand against the cold window, thought of Susan. Family takes care of family, she used to tell the kids. We show up for each other no matter what. How much do you need? Brian went quiet. Then $850,000. That's what I need to get this off the ground. But Dad, that's your retirement. I can't. Let me think about it. I hung up. Stood there in the dark living room. Our living room. The couch Susan picked out. The bookshelf we built together. Photos of Brian and Emily as kids, gap-toothed and sunburned from camping trips to Crater Lake. I walked through the house. Kitchen where Susan taught the kids to make pancakes. The garage workshop where I'd spent Saturdays fixing things, Susan bringing me coffee. This house held everything we'd built. But Susan was gone. Emily had her own life in Seattle, and Brian was drowning. By sunrise, I'd made my decision. I called my realtor first. I need to sell the house. Then my financial advisor. I'm taking early withdrawal from my 401k. I know there's penalties. I don't care. Emily called that afternoon worried. Dad, that's everything you and Mom saved. My future is making sure my children have one. 2 weeks later, I sat across from Brian and Jessica in their cramped Mission District apartment. Cardboard boxes in corners. A crib in pieces against the wall. I slid the papers across their scratched coffee table. $850,000. $570 from the house sale, $280 from retirement. I take 40% equity. My name goes on the founding documents as co-founder. Brian stared at the papers, then at me. Dad, I can't. You're not letting me do anything. This is an investment. We're partners. He stood up, came around the table, hugged me hard. I'll never forget this, he said, voice breaking. I swear, Dad, I'll never forget what you're doing for me. Jessica stood too, extended her hand across the table. Firm grip, professional. Her eyes scanned the number on the paper 850000 before they found Brian's face. I should have noticed that. The way she looked at the money first. The way her handshake felt less like gratitude and more like closing a deal. But I was watching my son, watching him wipe tears from his eyes, watching him believe in himself again. I thought I was saving him. Thought I was doing what Susan would have wanted. I didn't know I was buying my way out of my own son's life. The first year I was part of something, or at least I thought I was. Those early meetings in the cramped Soma office, 6 desks, whiteboards covering every wall, burnt coffee and ambition. I showed up twice a week, offered my perspective. 40 years of engineering experience solving problems 20-somethings hadn't encountered yet. Dad's insights are invaluable. Brian told the team after I'd suggested a workaround for a scaling issue. The developers nodded, took notes, made me feel like I belonged. I should have known better. Should have seen the shelf life on being needed. By month 3, I'd sold the Portland house. Got less than market value needed to close fast. I moved into a studio apartment in Oakland. 400 square feet. A Murphy bed. A kitchenette with 2 burners. To be closer, I told Emily when she video called from Seattle, concern filling her face. The company needs me nearby. Does he? She asked it gently. Dad, you sold Mom's home. For a startup that might not make it. It'll make it. I'll make sure it does. She sighed. Just be careful. I love Brian, but Jessica. Something about her feels off. She's ambitious. That's not a bad thing. If you say so. The doubt in her voice was clear. By month 8, meeting invitations came later. Or not at all. Jessica scheduled strategy sessions Tuesday mornings when she knew I volunteered at the Veterans Center. Then she'd email me afterward with bullet point summaries. Quick updates. No context. Just keeping you in the loop, Thomas, she'd write. Never Tom. Always formal. Always distant. I mentioned it to Brian once, over coffee near his apartment. Dad, Jessica's trying to keep things efficient. We can't have everyone in every meeting, That's not how startups scale. I'm not everyone. I'm a co-founder. You're an investor. The words came out fast, automatic, like he'd practiced them. Brian, my name is on the founding documents. Right, of course. I just meant, look, you've got to let us run the company. Trust us. I dropped it. Told myself he was stressed. Growing pains. By month 12, the company threw a holiday party. Modest. Catered food. Beer and wine. 30 employees now, all young and excited. Jessica worked the room like a politician. I watched her introduce people to Brian. This is Brian Mitchell, our founder and CEO. Then the others. Amanda, VP of Product. David, our CTO. When someone asked who I was, Jessica smiled. This is Thomas, Brian's father. Early investor. Very supportive. Not co-founder. Not partner. Just Brian's father. Later, getting my coat from the back office, I heard Jessica on her phone through the door. No, it's working out well. The silent partner situation, I mean. He funded everything but doesn't interfere with operations. Best of both worlds. Silent partner. I stood there, coat in my hands. Those two words echoing. I'd never agreed to be silent. Never signed away my voice. But somewhere between the paperwork and the first board meeting I wasn't invited to, that's what I'd become. For 2 more years, I told myself it would improve. That once the company stabilized, once the pressure eased, Brian would remember I was more than a checkbook. Emily kept calling, asking if I was okay. I'm fine, I'd say. Everything's fine. I was lying. I found the documents by accident. Or maybe Jessica wanted me to find them. It was April. 8 months before this New Year's Eve party. 8 months before I'd have to make a choice. I'd driven up to visit the grandkids at Brian and Jessica's condo in Noe Valley. Saturday afternoon. Brian was at the office, always at the office now, and Jessica had texted, asking if I could watch the kids while she ran errands. The boys were 4 and 6. Good kids. We built a tower out of blocks in the living room while cartoons played. When the younger ones spilled juice on the rug, I went to the kitchen for paper towels. That's when I saw it. Jessica's laptop open on the counter, screen still lit. She must have left in a hurry. I wasn't trying to snoop, but my eyes caught the document title. Series, A Dilution Strategy. Confidential. My name was in the first paragraph. I set down the paper towels, looked toward the living room. The kids were laughing. I glanced back and started reading. Tech Fund Solutions would raise $5 million in Series A funding. To accommodate the new investors, the company would issue new shares. Standard practice. But the dilution wasn't standard. Brian and Jessica's stake would drop from 60% to 48%. They'd still control the company. My 40% would drop to 12%. At the bottom, a section labeled Minority Buyout Option. They'd offer to purchase my remaining 12% for $180,000. I'd given them $850,000. 4 years later, they wanted to buy me out for $180,000. I pulled out my phone, took a photo of the screen, then another of the next page. Series A closing scheduled for January. The New Year's Eve party was the announcement. I heard Jessica's car in the driveway. I moved fast, wiped the juice stain, closed the laptop gently. By the time Jessica walked through the door with grocery bags, I was on the floor with the kids building another tower. How were they? She asked. Perfect. We had a good time. She smiled. Thanks, Thomas. I left 20 minutes later. The drive back to Oakland took 40 minutes. I didn't turn on the radio. Didn't think about anything except that number. 12%. 180. Back in my studio, I sat on the Murphy bed and called Emily. Dad, what's wrong? I told her. Explained the document, the dilution, the buyout offer. Dad, that's theft, she said after a long moment. It's legal theft. Bullshit. You gave them everything. There has to be something in the founding agreement. Protections. I'd have to check. Then check. And Dad, call a lawyer. I'm texting you a name right now. Robert Williams. He specializes in startup equity disputes. Emily, call him Monday. Promise me. I promise. After we hung up, I walked to the closet, pulled out the gray filing cabinet I'd moved from Portland. Susan used to tease me about keeping everything, every receipt, every manual for appliances we didn't own anymore. You never know when you'll need something, I'd tell her. I opened the top drawer. Inside were hanging files, labeled and organized by date. Every document from Tech Fund Solutions. The original term sheet, the operating agreement, Every email, every text about money strategy decisions. I'd spent decades in precision work. You build something, you keep the blueprints, track every measurement, every specification. Because one day you might need to know exactly where the weak points are. I didn't confront Brian. Not yet. There was a time for reaction and a time for strategy. This wasn't the moment to show my hand. I knew how things were built, which meant I knew how to take them apart piece by piece methodically until nothing could be salvaged. I became what Jessica wanted, silent. Watching, waiting. June rolled around. I still showed up at the office once a week. Tuesdays, walked through the space that had grown from 6 desks to 40. New faces everywhere. None of them knew who I was. I'd sit in the corner near the coffee maker, pretend to work. Really, I was just there, present, refusing to disappear. One Tuesday, I overheard Jessica talking to a new hire by the printer. "Who's that?" the kid asked, nodding toward me. Jessica glanced over, smiled. "Oh, that's Thomas, Brian's dad. He likes to feel involved." Sweet, really? I kept my eyes on my screen, but I pulled out my phone and made a note. June 14th. Jessica tells employee I like to feel involved. Condescending. Dismissive. Documentation. That's what Robert Williams had told me. Document everything, dates, times, witnesses, build the case brick by brick. August brought the company summer party. A rented space in Mission Bay. Catered barbecue, kegs of craft beer. I found out about it the day before when Emily called. Brian's summer party. He posted about it. I checked my email. Nothing. Found the invitation on Slack, buried in a channel I didn't follow. Posted 3 weeks earlier. I showed up anyway. Stood near the food table. Watched the team play cornhole and laugh at inside jokes I didn't understand. Picnic tables under a tent. Every seat taken. I ate my burgers standing. Jessica saw me. Waved. Didn't come over. Brian saw me too. "Dad didn't know you were coming." It was on Slack. "Oh, right. Well, glad you made it." He squeezed my shoulder. Moved on. I stayed an hour. Took photos on my phone. The crowd. The tables with no space for me. Then I left. September, I met Robert Williams at a coffee shop in Jack London Square. Once a month, we'd go over everything. He'd take notes. Ask questions. Nod at my folders. "Your documentation is excellent," he said during our 3rd meeting. "The founding agreement has clauses they're violating. Exclusion from material decisions. You have leverage. When do we use it? When they make their move? They'll announce the Series A at some point. Make a big show of it. That's when you act. Let them commit fully before you pull the thread. And if they try to close before I respond, they can't. Not without your signature as a 40% shareholder. They need you even if they've forgotten that." I drove home feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Not hope, but clarity. November, Brian called, awkward, halting. "Hey, Dad, about New Year's Eve. We're doing this company party. Pretty formal. Mostly investors and leadership. You'll get an invitation, but I wanted to give you a heads up. It's kind of a big deal." Sounds nice. "Yeah, so just so you're not surprised by the vibe, it's corporate, professional. I understand. I'll be there." "Cool, okay, good." He sounded relieved. "See you then." The invitation came 2 weeks later. Not from Brian, from Jessica's assistant. A mass email to 75 recipients. Subject: Tech Fund Solutions. New Year's Eve celebration, general admission. General admission, like a concert ticket. Like I was buying a seat to watch my own son's success, from the cheap seats. I sat in my studio that night, looked at my reflection in the dark window. 68 years old, living in 400 square feet, invisible to the company I'd created, but not powerless. On the wall behind me, I'd pinned a timeline. Every document, every slight, every broken promise. A web of evidence. Thomas Williams's words echoed. "When they make their move at New Year's, you make yours." I opened my laptop. Found the draft email Williams and I had been working on for 3 months. Read it through one more time. 8 more weeks until New Year's Eve. 8 more weeks until they'd learn what happens when you make an engineer invisible. I arrived at 10 p.m., 2 hours early. I wanted to see how they'd built my erasure. I'd lived this night 100 times in my head. But now I was seeing it through different eyes, not as a hurt father, but as an engineer about to dismantle a machine. The 3rd floor office was empty. just caterers adjusting centerpieces. Floor-to-ceiling windows reflected the San Francisco skyline. String lights cast everything in gold. I walked slowly through the room, let myself notice things I'd tried not to see. The company name on the wall, Tech Fund Solutions, in brushed metal letters. I'd suggested that name 4 years ago. Now it belonged to them. The product display near the entrance. The pivot that made it work had come from my conversation with Brian about user retention, drawn on a napkin at a diner. Now their success story. My money had bought it all. But my name appeared nowhere. I pulled out my phone, took photos, then walked to the seating chart. Founding team table. Brian, Jessica, the VCs. 10 seats. Crystal glasses already poured. General guests. Standing reception. My name buried among 40 others. I photographed it twice. Evidence. People arrived around 11. VCs first, then executives, employees. Everyone dressed for a wedding. I stayed near the windows, watched them not see me. At 11:30, Brian took the stage. "Thank you all for being here," he said. 5 years ago, Tech Fund Solutions was just an idea, a dream most people said would never work. We built this company from nothing, from a vision my wife believed in, from the dedication of this incredible team, from the trust of investors who saw what we could become. From nothing. I looked at my plastic cup. At the founding team table, crystal flutes caught the light. "To everyone who made this possible," Brian continued, "to our team, our investors, our partners, to 5 years of growth, and to the Series A funding that's going to take us to the next level. We couldn't have done this without you." Applause. Champagne corks. Laughter. I set my cup down, pulled out my phone, opened my email drafts. "Excuse me." Jessica stood there, champagne flute in hand, professional smile. "Thomas, could you help with the champagne tower? We need someone tall to reach the top tier." She said it the way you'd ask a hotel employee for extra towels. I looked past her at the staging area, at the tower of glasses, at staff in black vests waiting. "Actually," I said, "I'm about to send an important email. You'll want to read it." Her smile faltered. "What?" The DJ's voice boomed. "Ladies and gentlemen, 10 minutes from midnight." The crowd shifted toward the bar. I unlocked my phone, found the email draft, the one Thomas Williams and I had perfected over 3 months. Subject: Founder Rights Activation and Equity Protection Notice. Recipients: Brian, Jessica, all board members, all 3 VCs, company attorney, CC Robert Williams, Esquire. My thumb hovered over send. 10 minutes until midnight. 10 minutes until they'd announce their Series A and erase me completely. Jessica still stood there, confusion replacing her smile. "Thomas what? Email." Across the room, Brian laughed with Marcus Smith, playing Successful Founder. The DJ started countdown music. 9 minutes, everyone! My thumb moved to the send button. I sent the email at 11:59 and 47 p.m., 13 seconds before the new year. My thumb pressed send. The message disappeared from drafts, shot into inboxes across the room. The countdown reached 0. Happy New Year! Confetti cannons erupted. Champagne bottles popped. People threw their arms around each other. The room exploded with celebration. I stood by the windows, watched phones light up in pockets, in purses, on the bar. Marcus Smith pulled his phone out first, frowned at the screen, started reading. Sarah Jenkins checked hers next. Her smile faded. Then David Reed, then the company attorney whose face went pale. Brian was still celebrating, shaking hands. His phone was on the founding team table, buzzing. Jessica saw it first, picked it up, read. Her face changed. She grabbed Brian's arm, thrust the phone at him. He read. His hand started shaking. The email was simple. Thomas Williams and I had stripped it to legal essentials. Subject: Founder Rights Activation and Equity Protection Notice. The body laid out everything. Activation of founder protection clauses in the original operating agreement. Documentation of systematic exclusion from material decisions. Exhibit A. Evidence of attempted dilution without proper consent. Exhibit B. Demand for immediate board seat or mandatory independent audit. Notice that Series A cannot close without explicit written approval from 40% equity holder Thomas Mitchell. Legal action if terms not met within 10 business days. At the bottom, Robert's signature, law firm letterhead, legal consequence. Brian's eyes found mine across the room, through the confetti, through the champagne toasts, through 5 years of distance. I didn't look away. He pushed through the crowd. Jessica grabbed his arm phone to her ear, already calling someone. Marcus Smith was walking toward the exit. Sarah Jenkins close behind. The VCs weren't staying for a party where the deal had just collapsed. Brian reached me. His face was white. "Dad? What did you do?" "What you should have done," I said. "Kept your word." "Dad, wait. We can fix this. We can talk." I walked toward the elevator. He followed. "You had 5 years to talk to me, Brian. You gave me a badge instead." "It was a joke?" "Dad, it wasn't a joke." I pressed the elevator button. None of it was. The doors opened. I stepped inside. "Dad, please." His voice cracked. "Don't destroy everything I built." I looked at him, at my son, at the man who'd taken everything I gave him, and decided it wasn't enough to remember where it came from. "I didn't destroy anything," I said. "I just stopped letting you pretend you built it alone." The doors closed. I walked out into the San Francisco night. Cold air hit my face. Behind me, through the glass walls, I could see the party collapsing. Jessica's voice rising sharp and panicked. VCs heading for exits. Employees confused, wondering what happened to the celebration. The Series A was dead. The company couldn't raise money without my approval, and I wasn't giving it. I walked to my car, got in, sat there with my hands on the wheel. 5 years of being erased. 5 years of watching my son forget who'd made his dream possible. I started the engine. For the first time in 5 years, I felt nothing but the cold air and the lightness of finally letting go. The lawyer calls came within 24 hours. I didn't answer any of them. New Year's Day. My phone sat on the Murphy bed screen, lighting up every few minutes. 47 missed calls by noon. Brian 23 times. Jessica 12. The company attorney 8. Unknown numbers 4. I made coffee. Watched the fog roll across Oakland through my window. Ignored every buzz. Then I called Emily. "Dad?" She picked up on the first ring. "Are you okay?" I did it. "Good." Her voice was firm, proud. "Now come home. Come to Seattle. Stay with us." "I will." "I mean it, Dad. Not a visit. Come home for real." I looked around the studio. 400 square feet that had never felt like home. "Okay." January 3rd. I met Robert Williams at his office. He was smiling when I walked in. "The VCs pulled out," he said. "All 3 firms. Without their backing, Tech Fund can't close the Series A. The company's in limbo until they resolve your position." "What are they trying to do?" "Jessica's pushing for litigation, wants to challenge the founder agreement, but Brian's caught in the middle. He called my office yesterday, asked if there was a way to work this out." Williams shook his head. "I told him it's too late for negotiation." "And the company?" "Dead in the water, without capital." "Maybe 6 months of runway left?" I nodded. Felt nothing. January 6th. Robert called with an offer. A competitor, one of the companies Tech Fund had been competing with, wanted to buy my 40% stake. 1.7 million. "They want the technology," Williams explained. "The team is secondary." "Tell them 2 million, I said, "and they keep the good engineers. Not Brian, not Jessica." "Tom, 2 million, or I hold my shares and watch the company die." Williams was quiet. "Then I'll make the call." The competitor agreed within an hour. January 8th. The deal closed. $2 million wired to my account, plus the $280,000 that had been sitting in my separate retirement account all along. $2.28 million total. I'd given them $850,000. 4 years later, I was walking away with nearly triple that, but it wasn't about the money. My phone buzzed. A text from Brian. "Dad, please, can we talk?" I typed a response. "You had 5 years." Stared at it. Deleted it. Blocked his number instead. Some conversations were already over. I stood in my empty studio. Boxes stacked by the door. Everything I owned fitting into my car. On the counter sat one last item, the Observer badge from New Year's Eve. I'd kept it. Wasn't sure why at first. Now I knew. It was evidence. Not of what they'd done to me, but of what I'd refused to accept. I left it there on the counter. Let the next tenant wonder what it meant. Beside it, Susan's photo. The one I'd carried from Portland to Oakland, to everywhere I'd landed after she died. I picked it up, looked at her smile. I think you'd be proud, I said to the empty room. I finally chose myself. The drive to Seattle took 12 hours. I left before dawn, drove north through California, into Oregon, into Washington. Emily called twice to check on me. Dad, the guest room's ready, but honestly, I'm thinking you stay longer. Like permanently longer. I looked at the road ahead, at the miles between my old life and whatever came next. Yeah, I said, I think I will. For the first time in 5 years, I smiled. This New Year's Eve, I have a seat at the table. Not because I paid for it, but because I earned it. Emily's kitchen in Ballard smells like roasted garlic and rosemary. Through the window, I can see Puget Sound, dark water, scattered lights from Magnolia across the bay. Mark's at the cutting board with fresh thyme. Tom, more herbs, or is this good? He's actually asking, not being polite, actually wanting to know. A little more, I say. Crush it first. Releases the oils. He tries it, nods. Smart, thanks. A cooking question. Small. But after 5 years of being invisible in my own son's company, small things matter. Behind us, Emily's 3 kids are setting the table. Maya, 8 years old, keeps looking back at me like she's making sure I'm still here. Grandpa Tom, where do you want to sit? Anywhere's fine, sweetheart. No. Liam, 11, frowns like I've broken a rule. You have to pick. Everyone picks. I glance at Emily. She's smiling, hands in dough flour on her arms. Her eyebrow goes up. Well, next to you, Maya. Her whole face lights up. Perfect. I'll make your name card. Purple marker, crooked letters, my name. 68 years old, and it's the first time in 5 years someone asked where I wanted to sit. By 11:30, dinner's over. The table's covered in crumbs and empty glasses. Mark's neighbors brought their kids. The house is loud, warm, full. I step outside. Cold air. Sharp. A ferry moves south across the sound lights, steady against the dark. You okay, Dad? Emily's next to me with 2 coffees. Doesn't ask if I want one. Just knows. Yeah, I'm good. Quiet for a minute. Then Brian called yesterday. I don't react. I've learned not to. He said Jessica's gone. Said he's trying to rebuild. Wants advice. I sip the coffee. Too hot. Don't care. What did you say? That you're busy. I almost laugh. Busy. You are? She nudges me. 3 startups in 6 months. Teaching founders how to protect their equity. You're actually busy. She's right. After I left, I rebuilt. Quietly. Young founders reach out the scared ones who don't understand term sheets. I help them. Make sure they don't end up in the back of their own company wearing an observer badge. I'm proud of you, Emily says. I look at her, my daughter, the one who stayed, who called, who made room for me. I know. At 11:59, we're inside. Kids on the couch counting down. Mark pours champagne. Someone hands me a glass. Crystal, not plastic. Maya tugs my sleeve. Grandpa make a wish at midnight. What are you wishing for? She grins. Can't tell. Won't come true. 10:09, 8. I look around. Emily laughing with Mark. The kids shouting. My purple name card on the table. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year. Cheers. Hugs. Champagne spilling over. For the first time in 5 years, I don't think about what I lost. I think about what I chose. I chose myself and found my way back to people who wanted me here. The bridges I burned in San Francisco ash. Gone. But here in this house that smells like rosemary and sounds like family, I'm building something better. Something that can't be taken away. Looking back at this true story, I see where I went wrong. For 5 years, I confused love with surrender. I thought being a good father meant giving everything and asking for nothing. Don't be like me. Don't wait until you're holding an observer badge before you speak up. God gave you a voice. For a reason, use it. This isn't just another grandpa stories about sacrifice. It's a warning. I spent $850,000 trying to buy respect. What I should have done was teach my son that respect is earned, not purchased. God doesn't measure our worth by what we give away. He measures it by how we honor the value He placed in us. The lesson family loyalty is a two-way street. Blood doesn't give anyone the right to erase you. God calls us to be wise, not to be doormats. This true story taught me that sometimes walking away is the most faithful thing you can do. So here are my grandpa stories turned into advice. Document everything. Know your worth. Set boundaries. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. If you've experienced something like this, drop a comment and share your true story. You're not alone. If this resonated, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you don't miss more grandpa stories like this. Sometimes we just need to remind each other you deserve a seat at the table. Not because you paid for it, but because you earned it.